So welcome everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Andrew Flatres, Braille Product Manager at HumanWare. And joining me is Peter Tucic, Director of Strategic Partnership. Welcome to what will be an exciting webinar between two very well-respected assistive technology organizations, putting our competitiveness to one side and diving into what matters for all our users, which of course is the importance of Braille and becoming more productive as we showcase today's webinar, Divide and Conquer, exploring the Split Braille new feature that is found in JAWS with HumanWare's Brailliant and Mantis Q40 Braille displays. And to help us on that journey, join us today on the HumanWare Live webinar, our friends at Vispero, Elizabeth Whitaker and Rachel Buchanan. Hello to both of you and welcome.
Hi, and thank you for joining us. We're happy to be here today. I'm Elizabeth Whitaker, and I am the manager of the user education and documentation team here at Vispero.
And welcome, Rachel. Rachel, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me now?
I can. Welcome, Rachel. Do you just want to introduce
Excellent.
yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Rachel Buchanan, the current Director, User Education and Technical Support at Vispero. And I'll second what Liz said. Very happy and excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, let's start with an introduction. So when we look at how far the technology has come for several years, our sighted peers have been taking some advantages of using the multiple screens. Now, this configuration of one's workplace plays a pivotal role in optimizing efficiency and revolutionizing multitasking capabilities for users on a computer. Now, this setup allows for a more expansive digital workspace, fostering increased productivity and a seamless workflow experience. The primary advantages of having two screens is having multiple applications or documents open simultaneously, reducing the need for that constant toggle between tasks. I know as a sighted user myself, diverging to one screen makes me less productive as I need to toggle between various programs that I use in my daily work. So how does this compare with a single line Braille display? Well, users of a single line Braille displays navigate information sequentially, line by line, which requires more time and more effort to toggle between applications compared to those with dual screens. And I'm sure many of you today have encountered frustrations and lost time trying to switch back and forth between two common applications such as Microsoft Word and your email client. This disadvantages users of single line Braille displays in today's modern working environment. But now, thanks to JAWS 2024, Braille displays users have the luxury of working in a similar fashion with a dual screen thanks to a new feature called Split Braille. Later in the webinar, Peter will demonstrate this using HumanWare's Braille displays. But before that, I'm going to pass you over to Elizabeth and Rachel, who can tell us a lot more about this exciting feature and how, for those that are interested in listening, can get started. So over to you guys.
Thank you so much. And like you just mentioned, we are just going to give a brief overview of what the Split Braille feature entails and a little bit about the different views. And then we'll hand it back for that demo. So, Split Braille is a feature that was added in JAWS 2024 that, like we've mentioned, allows a user to view two different types of content at once. Your Braille display is divided into two halves when Split Braille is active, and these halves are referred to as regions. And the way it will appear on the Braille display is two vertical lines will separate these regions. And what benefit does this have, you may ask? Well, I'm sure that your mind may have already thought of several things, but just like Andrew mentioned, there are a lot of use cases and it opens up an entirely new world because Braille users are finally able to have the equivalent of a split screen or being able to look at two items at once. And the different views allow you to view content from different sources in different ways. And that is what Split Braille is essentially an opportunity for you to view content on your Braille display in one line and then split on the half, split down the middle into two different regions. I'm going to hand it off to Liz to talk to you about the different views and what this appears like on the Braille display for a Braille user.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. So as Rachel mentioned, when you have the split view or split Braille feature active, you're able to look at things in different applications on one line. And so she mentioned the regions that we'll be talking about. So by default, region 1 is going to be the left half of your Braille display, and region 2 is going to be the right half. Of course, they're separated by those lines Rachel mentioned. That is by default. You can change that in settings, but here, when we're talking about the different views, which I'm going to get into here in just a second, when I mention region 1, that's on the left, and region 2 is going to be on the right. So let's talk about the different ways that you can use split Braille. So we have 8 different views. I'm just going to go through these very quickly. Of course, you're going to see them in action, or some of them in action here. And this is going to be through the demo here in just a few minutes. So the first view that I want to talk about is the annotations view. This allows you to view annotations in Word. And annotations are things like comments, footnotes, endnotes, and revisions. So let's say, for example, you have a line of text in your document, you're in a Word document, you have a line of text that contains a comment. In region 1, if focus is on that line, you're going to be able to read that line, you're going to be able to interact with it, edit it, everything that you would need to do. And in region 2, you are going to be able to read that comment or revision or whatever that particular annotation would be. Speech history view. This allows you to read from the JAWS speech history while your focus remains in an application. So the JAWS speech history will contain up to 500 of the last spoken strings of text that JAWS has spoken, the last things that you've heard. And the most recent string of text is going to be on the bottom. So let's talk about how this could work. Let's use Microsoft Teams as an example. Maybe you're in a Teams meeting and someone enters the meeting and you want to know how to spell their name. So I'm in a meeting and Rachel enters and I want to know how to spell Buchanan. So I have in the region 1 in the left region there, I have the Teams meeting, I have the Teams application there. And in region 2, I have the JAWS speech history and I can read that information. And that's important here because when someone enters a meeting in Teams, that information is spoken by JAWS, but that's not something that's just going to pop up on your Braille display. So that's one good example of where you might use that. JAWS cursor view. So here, one region 1, is going to display the PC cursor location, while in the other region, you have the current line of text at the JAWS cursor location. So you could use this if you wanted to maybe look at a progress bar, in an application, or maybe a status bar if you wanted to monitor that. Window text view. Now, this is especially important for scripters. So in window text view, region 1 is going to display the text at your current location of either the JAWS or the PC cursors, whichever one you're using. And in the other region, the full text of the buffered window will be displayed. So what this means is, let's say you're using your PC cursor. In region 1, your PC cursor is going to, you're going to have it in a specific location in an application. And in region 2, you're going to be able to read all of the text in that window without actually moving that PC cursor from where it is in region 1. All right, let's talk about a few more split Braille views before we get to the demo. Buffered text. This view places text in a buffer, which is displayed on the right half or region 2 of your Braille display. So for example, you could have, a Microsoft Word document open and you were working in that document, you have it displayed there in region 1. And then region 2, you might have some text or might have, a web page displayed. So that's just one of the ways you can use buffer text. Translation split view. This one's really interesting. Here, you're going to have 2 different translation outputs, the current text in each region. So for example, let's say that you're learning UEB Braille, Unified English Braille, and you have a document open and you're reading that document. In the left region, you could have grade 1 UEB, and in the right, in region 2, you could have grade 2. So that would help you be able to study your UEB Braille contractions and Braille signs. attribute indicators. This view displays the text of the line and focus in the first region, there in region 1, and its corresponding attributes in the second. So if you have, line of text that you're reading in region 1, and that text has attributes such as bold, underline, etc., italics, etc., you're going to see those attributes in region 2. All right, split Braille application specific views. These are available for Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and Teams to improve productivity when accessing information. For example, you can use this view in Excel to monitor cells, display row and column totals, and view the formula in the current cell. In Outlook, you could view the message list in the first region and the preview pane in region 2. In PowerPoint, you could view your presentation in the first region and your speaker notes in the second. And then in Teams, one way you could use this in Teams would be to view the message you are composing in region 1 and read the chat history in region 2. And this is important if you need to refer to that chat history while you're composing a message. So that's just an overview of all of the different views available. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Peter.
Thank you so much. So what we're going to do, and fantastic to be here. My name is Peter Tucic. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at HumanWare. And thanks to Liz and Rachel for running us through kind of, again, the overview of this and kind of giving us a sense of what has been accomplished here. And it is definitely, as has been reiterated, something that can open a lot of doors and really pertaining to multitasking and just becoming an even more proficient user or efficient user of time. And as someone I've used JAWS for more than 25 years at this point, and to finally have some semblance of what it's like to work on, in multiple screens or with multiple views at the same time, it has been very, 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 very neat. And I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of this, including something I used just last week during a presentation at the ATIA conference in Orlando. So, the feature came at a great time because I was able to simultaneously read my speaker notes whilst presenting a slide. I'm going to share my screen and subsequently share my sound, and I will try my best not to talk over it and really kind of will describe what is going on while I'm doing this. I will also have the Braille viewer active so that for those of you in the audience who are sighted, or as my great friend and former colleague Jim Sullivan says, light dependent, you'll be able to kind of see what is going on as well. You'll be able to see these regions and actually how they change. So I'm going to start my screen share, and let's share our sound. And let's make sure we're good.
And just while you set that up, Peter, and correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth and Rachel, there's only a few Braille displays that are compatible with this split Braille. Of course, you have the focus displays, the Brailliants, the Mantis, including the Legacy, and I believe it's the Papamai displays. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
All right. So, and for this demonstration, I'm going to be using a BI40X. And let me know if you hear that. I hope you do.
Yeah, we do.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move over into the first thing we're going to do is look at what was mentioned with the application specific view. And in this case, I'm going to show you how you're able to set up Split Braille to read your message previews and your message kind of list at the same time. And I really like this one because oftentimes, on our iPhones, it's sometimes really easy to kind of scroll through messages without opening them because it reads the preview after it reads the subject. But when you use something like Outlook, unless you have it specifically configured, that's not the default. You'll hear who the message is from and you'll hear the subject, but you won't have much sense of what the content is. So you have to actually open the message to read the content. And now those days are over. So I'm going to move us into my inbox.
Document JAWS provide tech info list.
And this is a folder that I have for the David Goldfield Newswire list, where many of you may receive these updates from David, and a phenomenal list that's all things AT and all sorts of other pieces. But what we have right now is I'm in a list box, and in my list box, I'm able to kind of on the Braille display see that this and we'll have this read out loud. But what is my first message here? It would help if it actually read it, wouldn't it?
Vitek info list.
All right.
List box.
So what is going on?
Show escape. Peter.2 3 VR stream Vitek enter list
Try it
box
again.
external David
All right.
Goldfield via groups.io tech vi sorry Google but geo restricting talkbacks beta testing is not the right decision accessible Android
Okay.
web 1
So this message is about, talkback and whatnot. And I hear the subject and I think, oh, that's neat. I wonder what the message actually contains. What I can do, so this is currently on my Braille display, and I can use my inner right thumb key on the BI40X or my Mantis to kind of read through the subject. And I could press my down arrow or command key 3 to move to the next message if I wanted to.
external David Goldfield via groups.io tech vi turn your text into speech with Speechify web
Okay, so I hear these, but again, I'm not getting a sense of the message. Now, what I can do is I can turn on split Braille to actually enable the regions to actually read the message preview without opening the message. So let's
external
focus on
David
this talkback message, and to enable the split Braille feature from your BI40X, you can press command keys 1, 2, 3, and 6. Again, not your Braille keyboard, but command keys. The keys on the left and right side of the Braille display are your command keys. So you can press command keys 1, 2, 3, and 6 with the furthest right or thumb key 4 simultaneously. So I'm going to do that. Alternatively, if you want to use the keyboard, you can press Alt Insert V and make this sort of work. So I'm going to enable the Braille split viewer.
JAWS Professional Vitek info list Peter.Tucic at HumanWare.com Outlook select Braille view dialog list 1 list view no split 1 of 9
And you're presented with a series of options here. And we heard the first option is no split, meaning nothing. It's just a standard Braille display. I'm able to read on this display 40 characters at a time. And remember, this is applicable, on various sizes of Braille displays. So you will be able to use this if you have a Focus 14, for instance. You can split it into regions of 6. But what I want to do is use my down arrow, and there are some other options here, but the very bottom option is going to be relevant to what I'm doing in Outlook. So I'm going to just come to the bottom, press my Control End.
message list plus preview pane off
And it
9 of
says
9.
message list plus preview pane off. Now, if I press enter and turn this on, I will see my message list on the left region or region 1. And on the right region, region 2, I will have my message preview. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to press enter.
Enter list box external David Goldfield via
Now,
groups.
on the left side of my screen, and for those of you who can see the Braille viewer, you see that the left side says David Goldfield, which is who the message is from. It says external and then David, because the way we have it set up here at HumanWare is I get a notice if a message is external or internal. On the right side, I have the beginning of my actual preview, and it says external email, and then I'm able to read forward here. So again, you see in the very middle of the display, cells 20 and 21 have what would be a 4, 5, 6, 8 in cell 20, and in cell 21 a 1, 2, 3, 7. Dividing my display, though that 2-cell indicator divides my display into 2 19-cell halves in this case. Now, the way we do this is I can scroll region 2 by using my right thumb keys. So my thumb key 3, which would be my inner right thumb key, and thumb key 4 will move my display backward and forward by these 19 characters. So as I scroll with thumb key 4, only the right region, and I'll be into my, again, every email received here at HumanWare says, be vigilant with attachments and, again, I'm going to pan again, clickable links, right? And then I have a French message as well to warn the French employees that they should be very careful with messages that contain clickable links. As I'm using thumb key 4, again, I'm panning forward through this display width by display width without affecting the left or region 1 side of my display, which is still showing who the message is from. So you can also move through this instead of just display width by display width, you can move through this line by line. So if I use command key 6 with my thumb key 4 or my next thumb key, I will jump to the first line of this message, which is, sorry, Google, but, and then again, I'm going to just hit thumb key 4 by itself to read the rest of this line. Geo-restricting talkbacks beta testing is not the right decision. And I see that this was, it says published 30th of January, 2024 by Karine Kiwan. So again, I'm able to read through just on this right side of the display. I've turned my right side into a, for all intents and purposes, a 20-cell display that can read through the messages whilst the left side stays focused on my message inbox message list. Now, if I use my down arrow, it will move the left region or the left focus of my display. I'm just going to press my down arrow.
External David Goldfield via groups.io. Turn your text into speech.
Here's our turn our text into speech with Speechify email. And again, on the right side, here's my preview, my external email notification. I'm just going to jump to the next line. And it says, turn your text into speech with Speechify, exclamation point. Reading and obtaining text and information can be very challenging and again, I can kind of cut through here and cut it in. I believe I have my chats on from a previous meeting. So if you send something through, you might hear it. So I'll probably mute you instantly. But the piece here is I'm able to scroll with thumb key 3 backward by, and scroll that right side of my message preview backward by 19 characters or forward with thumb key 4. You can also jump line by line. So I'm able to read the message previews whilst at the same time having my left side focused on, or region 1 focused on my inbox. And you can swap these. If you're more comfortable with the previews being on the left and your message, inbox being on the right, you can do that as well. But keep in mind your arrow keys and your keyboard commands are going to be specifically controlling your active JAWS region, which is region 1. That split braille region is controlled by your thumb keys or your panning keys and your command key 6. So a very, very unique way. If you're a power email user and you find yourself using tons of email, it's going to be a way for you to quickly, move through messages and read your previews simultaneously. Okay. Again, to turn this off, there are a couple of ways you can do this. What I find the easiest, you can toggle on the Brailliant. You can toggle the buffering or the split braille regions quickly by pressing command keys 1, 2, and 3 simultaneously. So if I do that, I can come back into my entire piece here. So again, command keys 1, 2, 3. Some of these are not going to work on your Mantis. Your Mantis will support split braille, but remember, you don't have command keys. So you can use this feature, but you're using it as though, you're using a standard sort of 40 cell display without the thumb keys will work, but you don't have the command keys for added functionality. I believe, though, you could go in, and I haven't done this, but you could go in and work in the keyboard manager to alter or assign keyboard commands to emulate some of these added functionality pieces that are available on the BI40X. All right. That's one example. And the next example I want to show is also very application specific, and it is going to deal with PowerPoint. When it comes to PowerPoint, I have been a conference presenter, as has Andrew and Liz and Rachel, for many, many years. And we always find ourselves running through very visual content, which is great and doable. And I know there have been some, Liz has done some webinars with this stuff, and I've seen them in the past. And with a lot of it, there are keyboard commands that are very functional with JAWS to use PowerPoint. No doubt about it. And I've been a user for many years, but this takes it to the next level. So I'm going to come over into an open PowerPoint presentation that I have, which we used last week, demonstrating some Braille display features. And when I do that,
JAWS screen document PowerPoint slideshow Asia 2020.
So I am in a slideshow, and I'm on slide 11 of this presentation specifically because it has slide notes. Now, to get the slide notes view, normally when I'm presenting, what I do is I would press Control-Shift-N.
Andrew, it's always been.
And these are Andrew's notes. If I press Control-Shift-N again,
slide 11, I
come back into slide 11. Again, that's common sort of practice for utilizing slides and presentations as we do this. But I'm going to come forward into slide 12 and show you a different approach. So I'm going to press my space bar again. I'm in the slideshow presentation view. I'm pressing space.
As notes, slide 12, inclusive design, Asia 2024 Conference 12,
okay.
2017 CSUNN-members of the USBF, Braille manufacturers, screen readers, and mainstream technology firms agreed to work towards a universal Braille display.
Okay, so what this slide deals with is the HID, the new HID Braille protocol, allowing for an easier plug-and-play sort of mentality between all of us, so the manufacturers, being Vispero or HumanWare or others, and this, whether it's Braille displays and screen readers, being also Vispero or NVDA or other companies, VoiceOver and so on, to get together and build the protocol, which is taking shape. And this slide deals with how it's evolving and it's growing, and anything takes time. Anytime you want a new standard, it will take years to kind of put in place, and that's what we're seeing. Now, in this slide, I have slide notes, and normally I would press Control-Shift-N to view those notes. But now, thanks to Split Braille, I can press Alt Insert V, or remember my command keys 1, 2, 3, 6 with thumb key 4 held down, and I can bring up that view.
JAWS Professional, JAWS version 2024.2312.
And at the bottom of this, again, I have an additional option specific to PowerPoint that says,
show speaker's notes during presentation off.
It says show speaker's notes during presentation, and it is currently off. Now I'm going to press space. I'm sorry, I'm going to press enter. My bad.
Enter.
And it turns it on.
12 and 12.
And now what we see is on the left side, or region 1, I have my slide 12, and I can use my down arrow or command key 3 to look at my bullets.
CSU connectivity standard.
Connectivity standard, right? And I can pan through the left region by reading my bullet points with thumb key 2 to move forward by my 19 characters on region 1. But on the right side, I see my notes, and my notes say, and these were Andrew's notes, like any new standard, it has to start somewhere in a basic form while continuing to evolve. Back in 2017, various screen reader manufacturers, braille manufacturers, and mainstream organizations. And again, so I can read through these notes on the same display as I'm reading my slide content in region 1. So region 2 now contains my slide notes. Region 1 contains my PowerPoint presentation. Remember, I can pan through these slide notes width by just using thumb key 3 and or thumb key 4, or I can move line by line. If my slide notes contain multiple lines and I know I've already read note 1 and I'm getting lost in the shuffle of my display sort of panning, you can use command key 6, hold it down, and then tap on thumb key 4 and jump to the next line of that, within that region. So it's very, very helpful in terms of giving us a space to kind of look at, for those of us who present a lot, to look at our notes simultaneously and avoid kind of being in one focus or the other. A lot of times, and this is how sighted people present all the time, right? They're looking at their notes whilst at the same time looking at their presentation content. It's the same pane, it's the same view. And this makes it very neat in that we're doing the same thing. And I think for many of us who present, we oftentimes don't utilize notes to the fullest of our ability because we get concerned that when we switch over to the notes view, we may lose our place on our slideshow, in our slide deck. And so this makes it very, very helpful in terms of using notes. I think we oftentimes memorize far too much content in presentations. When I present and I build presentations, I like to build very bulleted, basic presentations. I believe that less is more, and I don't like to read slides verbatim, but oftentimes I will get so focused on my bullets and I know what I want to say, but I will lose kind of, where that comes through. So it is something that, that I think can be taken advantage of and really can show a lot of functionality. Okay. So, do we want to, Andrew, do we want to pause until I'm going to switch over to Word? Do you want to read a couple of questions came in that I muted? I mean, they're going to be spoken. I've hit Control to silence them. Are there any questions in the chat right now that we can take quickly?
Sure.
Or do we want to wait till the very end?
Yeah, there's one question that has just come in. It's what split braille functions do we have on the Mantis Q40, and how do we view region 2?
So on the Mantis Q40, it's a great question. You have the same functionality, you just don't have command keys. So again, to enable on the Mantis, because there's no insert key, you will use caps lock, Alt V, and the same would be true if you're using laptop layout on a PC. Caps lock becomes your JAWS key. So caps lock, Alt V will bring up your split view dialog, and you would simply arrow down to the view you want. And then on the Mantis, command keys are non-existent. So the difference there being you will pan your regions by using thumb key 1 and 2 will pan region 1, and thumb key 3 and 4 will pan region 2. And that will be how you'll do it. But it's fully supported on the Mantis for certain. It's just you will invoke it by pressing Alt in caps lock V as opposed to Alt insert V.
And this one's just been answered. You just answered this question, but I'll read it out. It's from Ashley. In a PowerPoint presentation, can we view the presentation and speaker notes in the split braille view while keeping speaker notes on screen hidden from the audience?
Yes. So when you show speaker notes, they're not visible to your audience. Speaker notes are not something you would bring through. If you're in presentation mode, if you're in presenter mode, the speaker notes will not be be visible. What I'll say there though is if you have, like I do, if you have your Braille viewer on and someone is sighted, they could in theory see your speaker notes if your Braille viewer is on. But I think a lot of times if you're presenting to a sighted room or to a conference or to anywhere, you're not really going to have your Braille viewer present. I have it on for now because we're looking at a very Braille centric webinar. So you will see my speaker notes here on the right side of in region 2. But you know, if ideally you would not have your Braille viewer on, it's not really going to help anyone you're presenting to. The Braille viewer is mainly used so that somebody sighted, like a TBI or you know, a para or a parent, can see exactly what their Braille display is, the Braille display is showing to that Braille user, that blind user. All right. And remember, I can turn this off. There's a couple of ways. If I just press Alt Insert V again, I can bring up my view. No split, and the first option is no split. Enter. I can just press enter. And now, slide. Keep in mind in that dialog, you can swap the regions. So you can have region 1 be, you know, your notes or the split Braille region, and region 2 be your active region. It just depends on how you prefer it. Okay, now let's jump into, so again, we've looked at an application specific functional use for Outlook. We've seen kind of how we can use this in PowerPoint. And remember, this is specifically in the slideshow presentation view. But we're going to move over into Microsoft Word and talk about a couple of very neat use cases here. So I have a document. There are 2 unsaved documents I have open. We're going to move over into document 1, and we'll talk about annotations and text attributes. So I'm going to come over here.
JAWS provide text screen, document 1 Word.
Okay. Document. Now, I have my text analyzer on, but we're going to, again, I'm in a Microsoft Word document. We are going to read the first line of this document. And what you're going to hear is kind of what my speech would say, and then we'll get into how I can manipulate this.
Top, font change at T, font change at. This is a test of accessing annotations using the as comment, split Braille view dot and as comment.
All right. So we heard it say this is a test of, you know, accessing annotations and using the has comment, split Braille view and comment. For those of us who use track changes and all these things, it can get pretty messy. And if you're not familiar with it, and it certainly is something very doable with JAWS. There are great shortcuts to jump through comments and do all sorts of things. And that would be for a whole different webinar. But in our case, what we're going to do is look at the functionality of Split Braille. And I absolutely love this. And if I say Split Braille one more time, I'm gonna have to like put myself in some sort of speech coaching for my tongue slipping. So Split Braille is very, very helpful here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, I'm on the top line of this file, just looking at this in 40 cell view, standard view, no split. And on my Braille display says, this is a test of accessing annotations using I press my inner right thumb key, and the words split Braille view are all underlined. So I know, even without speech, I know it says has comment and end comment and things like that. But I see that in Braille, I read on my Braille display that dots 7 and 8 are underneath split Braille view. So something is up there. I certainly know it does have a comment, but how do I get to that comment? Well, there are keyboard shortcuts to do it, but I want to look at it in split Braille view so I can see what's going on. All right. Let's press Alt Insert V, or on our Brailliant BI40X, we can press Command keys 1, 2, 3, 6 in conjunction with thumb key 4. We're going to do that.
JAWS version 2024.2312.53.
All right.
Document 1 Word. Select Braille view dialog. List 1 list view. No split.
So remember, no split is our first option. I'm going to press my down arrow.
Buffered text.
Here's the buffered text, which we'll get to in a moment. Annotations, which is what we want. I'm going to press enter on annotations. And again, to find out what each of these do, if you tab, you have an informational edit box that tells you exactly what these do. So again, if I hit tab here, if I want to know what annotations means in the split Braille context, I can press tab.
Read only edit.
And here,
line plus text annotations such as footnotes, endnotes, and comments.
Right. I can kind of hear what that is.
And comments.
Let's shift tab and press enter on annotation.
Enter. Edit.
All right. And this becomes pretty cool. So at this point, what I'm going to have is I have my document. This is a test of accessing annotations using and now if I route my cursor, remember split Braille view was underlined. If I route my cursor into that, my my display splits, and on the right side, it says comment. Is this not, right? And I'm going to use my thumb key 4 to read the next string of this comment on my region 2. So it says comment space. Is this not extremely helpful? Question mark. And then it says Peter Tucic, because I made this comment myself. I put this comment in earlier. So you can see who, what is the comment, who made the comment. Very, very, very helpful. And it's only going to be present when you route your cursor into a space where there is an attribute to note. So otherwise, if I'm just reading through my document and there are no, comments, I'm reading all 40 characters. But if I route my cursor into somewhere where there is an attribute, it will show up. Now, just another example of this, I'm going to misspell the word annotation. So let's take out one of the N's.
N.
Let's move my cursor out. And you will get, there we go. We hear the buzzer. And when I'm at the top of my file, and this again does depend a bit on Braille marking, but when I'm reading, I will see that the word annotations is underlined. And I think, oh, what's wrong with that word? And if I route my cursor into it, I now get in my split Braille region, it says misspelled. So again, it's giving me that indicator. Or if there was a footnote or endnote, it would say what those are. So I find this extremely helpful for quickly accessing the comments or any annotations that are in your files. Can be a really helpful way. You think of proofreading and how important it is. And in today's world, I mean, we're constantly sending documents back and forth, and really not even back and forth anymore, reviewing things in the cloud or other places where there are annotations. People are commenting. You're needing to reply to comments, do all these different things. Anything to make that more efficient is extremely helpful. So for me to be able to read that comment as soon as I route my cursor into the underlined area on the same display, independent of where I'm reading, is wonderful. So again, this can be extremely helpful. Let's look at another one.
Top 8.
All right. Now, just to confirm this, if I fix this, so let's just say I add my N into annotation, because we know it's spelled with 2 N's. So let's put my N in here.
N.
And get my cursor out, and it fixes it. And now again, on my Braille display, that underline goes away. So if I route my cursor back into annotations at this point, there's no more comment. There's no more split Braille because it's not there. I have my text analyzer on, so I will get things with the style and whatnot. But the point being, there is no annotation with this word anymore because it's no longer misspelled.
From Mark Peters to all.
Okay, friends. What I'm going to do is I am going to, and I apologize for, I definitely overlooked having my chats on, but I'll mute them when they come in and we can look at them momentarily. We're going to look at a new view, and that view is going to be, we're going to look at the split Braille view dealing with text attributes. So before we do this, I'm going to come in, and I'm going to, in this first sentence, I am going to make the word accessing bold. So I am going to press Control Shift right arrow to select this word.
Accessing.
Selected. And I'm just going to hit Control B.
Bold on.
And I've bolded the word accessing. Now, I see that there's something up with it when I read through, if I have various Braille markings and things turned on. But let's just see what happens in our split Braille view, because this could be very, very helpful. So Alt Insert V.
Microsoft Word document. Select attribute indicators.
And
4 of
the
8.
fourth option here in our list is attribute indicators. I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Edit.
All right. This is very cool. And in that informational edit box, it will tell you what these various symbols mean. But what I have is my left side of the display says this is a test of, and then I see over on the right side things that look like letters. And there are letters in the text box that will tell you, more info about what each region looks like. It will say that N stands for normal. So I see a direct character by character correlation from left to right on my text attribute. So this, for instance, is a .6 in TH. So I have NN on the right side. And again, I can read this in parallel. Is IS, I see NN, space A, which is N, and then test, TEST contracted, NNN, of is another N. So this is all normal text. Now, if I pan this forward, what I see is the word accessing is going to become, what did I do? Did I not do this right? Wait a second. There we go. When I forgot to route my cursor. When I read this, though, I see the word accessing becomes BBBBB. So accessing reads normally on the left side, but on the right side, the A, the CC, the E, SS, and the ing symbol are all shown as B for bold. And then the word annotations is, again, is going to be N. If I scroll forward, we see kind of that all this is normal until I get to, remember the word split braille view had a comment? That all shows up as U's. So U for SBLIT, braille, BRL being U, and so on. So what this is it's an equivalent that allows you to read the braille characters, and depending on how you have it, and see what that text formatting is going to look like, with a sort of a character by character representation. Very, very useful if you are needing to, in addition to your text analyzer, maybe needing to quickly read through something. Maybe you don't have speech, or you're not, going to be pulling, depending on how you have this all set up. And I know there are many ways, and I use the text analyzer a lot, but this is just another way to take advantage of reading annotations in a very simple kind of method. All right, a couple more quick. I'm going to come down and we are going to look at the translation side.
Blank, space run at 1, advanced list, blank, dance.
Okay, so I have a couple of words here. I have dance, fence,
never,
and never.
Dance.
Now, I'm on the word dance, and I have these on 3 different lines, and right now it shows that it's just normal. But I'm going to change my split braille to the translation option. So again, dance D46E, I'm working in UEB contracted braille. Now, if I press Alt Insert V,
JAWS version
and I come down to translation split, I can press enter.
Edit.
And now what we get is the word dance, as and whatever's in my region 1 will be shown in region 2 in uncontracted braille. So you see dance with dance, and in this case it's going to be in computer braille. You can set kind of what these will appear as, but if I come down to fence, again, fence becomes uncontracted on the right side of my display. If I come up, if you look at an actual sentence, so I do have, let's come up to that very first sentence.
Top, font change at T, font change at, font change at.
So here,
this is a test of accessing annotation.
This is a test of accessing. You'll see that on the right side, I have this is a test of, right? And then I can advance either display region independently of each other. So accessing, can be advanced, and we see that's all spelled out. Accessing annotations using, and this is all in uncontracted braille. Whereas on the right side, on the left side of region 1, I can advance this separately as well. So it's not a character for character, mainly because to line them up, they wouldn't equate to the same, the same characters per line. So the word wrapping would get very interesting. But you're able to look at what an untranslated, the same content translated or untranslated is going to look like side by side to compare them. And again, thumb keys 1 and 2 will pan region 1, and 3 and 4 pan region 2. Okay, finally, I want to talk about text buffering. And this one I really, really like because it allows you to move text from one document or even one part of a document to another while leaving it on screen. And this is awesome. And what I'm going to do is I have a sentence here.
Blank, space run at 101. Please copy this sentence into a separate file using the split braille region. Remember that you can.
All right. So again, my sentence is, please copy this sentence into a separate file using the split braille region. Remember, you can advance by pressing a character key with, I think, what the rest of this
advance the split braille region by line by pressing C6 with the thumb keys.
Right. So this is just, again, another sentence I have in the document. Now I want to move this into a separate file.
Space run at 1 blank.
So what I do is I'm going to put my cursor at the beginning of this sentence, and my JAWS, my PC cursor, that is. And what I want to do is I want to turn on the text buffer. I want to turn on my split braille into a text buffer. So we'll look at what this looks like. I'm going to press Alt Insert V.
JAWS version 2, JAWS cursor 7 of.
And the second option
buffered text
says buffered text, and this will take what's in my kind of my active area and put it into the text buffer. And you can determine what this looks like. Is it a paragraph? Is it, I believe, a document that can be up to 64 kilobytes? I think there is a clipboard feature for this, as well as there's one other option for what the buffer can contain. And Liz and Rachel, I'm sure can validate what that fourth option is. But if I press enter here, what happens is on the right side of my display, I've put this sentence in the text buffer. Now, this example, I don't have two documents kind of side by side that I'd like to compare, or, there are different ways you can utilize this, but I'm just going to show you how easy it is to keep this sentence on the right side of my display or in region 2 and go into a whole new document and copy it over, because it's very, very cool. So I'm going to come into a blank document in Microsoft Word.
JAWS Pro PowerPoint screen document 2 Word.
Here's document 2. You'll hear that it's blank. This document contains nothing. Okay. Now, on the left, region 1 of my display is entirely blank. It's completely blank right now because I don't have any text in the document. Now, region 2 of my display says, please copy this sentence, and so on. And we know we can pan through this. What I can do is I can actually copy text from the buffer into my region 1. So I can copy text from that buffered region into my live or active region. To do this, I'll press my first thumb key or previous thumb key, the thumb key all the way to the left, and I'll press a cursor routing key above where I would like to start the selection. So I'm going to press my cursor router key on the P and please. I'm going to use Command key 4 and scroll into a separate file using the split braille. Oh, it went too far. Region period. Now, what I can do is I find where I want to end my selection. I'm going to hold down Command key. I'm going to hold down thumb key 1 or my very furthest thumb key to the left and press my cursor routing key above the period in my split braille region. And what happens is when I do this, we're going to get all of that text underlined. So again, we can copy and it will automatically be copied. So it takes a bit of kind of practice because you do need to make sure you're doing it in the order that, that it needs to be done in. Otherwise it might kind of go sideways. But once you do select that text, it will be copied to the clipboard. And at that point you can paste and that sentence will come into your document.
The sentence into a separate file using the split braille region.
And that's now in this separate document. So again, in my document 2 that was blank, I've taken buffered text, copied it to the clipboard and thrown it into this document. And it's certainly still in my other document. It's still in the middle of that first file I was working with. But you are able to take text and you are able to move it from the buffer into another location by selecting and copying it. There are other neat features here because you can actually append to the clipboard. There's lots of different things you can do with this feature that allow you to really get a sense of, and it could be even just moving something from earlier to later in a document. If you find yourself pasting something all the time, or maybe you're adjusting certain values of a sentence and you want to paste certain pieces of it, instead of having to go all the way back up to the top of your file and find that text each time to manipulate it and then copy it to the clipboard, you can easily keep that piece in the buffer and then select and copy as you go. So again, an advanced, these are very sort of seemingly advanced features, but they have a lot of functionality even for beginning users, depending on your knowledge and kind of how you're going to be driving the screen reader and what you're looking to get out of Braille support. I also see tremendous functionality here for our deafblind users or those in a call center or some work environments who are not using speech. And so it can be extremely helpful in order to kind of bring this through. Now, I want to stop here. I could certainly keep going. Is there anything else that I'm gonna mute my speech at this point because we don't need it anymore.
Speech on demand.
Is there anything else, Andy, that came into the chat again with the time we have kind of that would be viable, and maybe we can open it up for some questions. And Liz and Rachel, if you have anything to add, please jump in. I think the only other thing I'll say is that this does work on our legacy Brailliant models as well. So if you have a Brailliant BI 32 or a BI 40, this will work on JAWS 2024. Certainly the BIX 40X will work as well. And Andrew, I think you do have another slide before we jump into the questions.
There's a few great questions, and it's a great demonstration, Peter. I mean, looking at that, there's some fantastic use cases that, real life situations that we use day in day. And the fact that you can do this on one single line display is fantastic. I also have joined us Ron Miller here from Vispero to ask any more difficult questions, you could say. I mean, hi, Ron, if you want to unmute yourself and just say hello to everyone. I do have some questions I'd like to fire at you, if that's okay, Rob.
Well, absolutely. And hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me join you.
Rock and roll, Ron. How'd I do? You know, I love this. I love this collaborative effort we
It's
have going.
great.
So
Because we all
um,
have the same goal, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and it is, you know, we have so many employees at HumanWare who are JAWS users and who certainly we make Braille displays, and we're all doing these things together. And when we saw this coming, we were so excited to be able to be on board with this and participate as, you know, as JAWS users, just for the blindness community as a whole. So it's pretty awesome to be able to collaborate on stuff like this. And thanks for joining Ron. So Ron knows way more about any of this than I will ever know when it comes to the JAWS side. And so glad you're here. If there are some specific questions that maybe I can't answer, but I know Andrew, I think you have another slide, and then and I think Liz and Rachel have a quick thing to say, and then we'll take a few questions.
Sure. Okay, well, a couple of questions here then. So let's just come off 1 second. What I'll do, I'll just share my screen that will show some of the Brailliant BIX shortcuts, which we've already demonstrated, or Peter's already demonstrated, whilst we answer some questions. So first question here, I guess this would be a question from the HumanWare side: is the Braille Note Touch Plus compatible with split Braille? So currently that is a no. So Jasmine, no at the moment. The split Braille function is not supported on the split Braille. So other questions include, okay, got quite a few coming in. Will this work in Google Docs where there is a message to resolve comment? So question to you, Ron, there. So will this work in Google Docs where there is a message to resolve comment?
Right now, we don't have the hooks in Google Docs to do that. So that I am hoping is coming down the pipe soon, because we have a lot of people in Google Docs. You might, and I haven't played in that in the Google workspace enough to be authoritative, but let me suggest perhaps you can use the JAWS cursor view.
Mm-hmm.
If you can park your cursor, if there's a place where comments are going to pop, you could do it that way. But that's dependent on how the Google workspace presents that.
But just
Yeah.
a second, that we will be doing huge improvements in this feature over the next 2 releases. So I know that Google Docs is a priority. Go ahead, Liz. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Stay tuned, because we're always making changes and enhancements. So, and always check out the What's New page. Anytime a release comes out, be sure to check out the What's New page for JAWS, because any of those new enhancements will definitely be listed there.
And I'd say, yeah, like with anything, I mean, from our side, we do have a document that's working with the BIX series or the Mantis with JAWS, and we'll be updating that to include the split Braille pieces. And certainly as there are improvements, or, you know, as features are added or things are kind of streamlined, you know, we know this is a version 1 of this sort of feature. And if we've seen anything from JAWS over the last many years, every cycle has features that are introduced and then they continue to get smarter. So
Exactly.
Okay, so there's 2 questions that are quite similar here. So this one's from Mark. Can you see highlighted text in the split view as well? And I guess this is a similar question from Jasmine. Does attribute indicators work for highlighted text?
And Peter, you going to field that?
Yeah, so
jump in.
yeah, well, so yeah, I mean, you're going to see, you know, the highlighted text is in region 1 because that's where your active document is. The point of the annotation is to tell you what that highlighted, what that text is. What is the annotation? I guess I'm not too sure. Maybe, you know, in the translation view you'd see it as well, but I don't really understand. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question in a sense.
You'll see about 7 and 8 in region 1 for sure.
Right.
Maybe highlighted text here in the context of where the background color is changed, where the text is highlighted, perhaps.
Sure. Because you're going to see that in your region 1,
right,
as you would
right,
always. So
right.
region 2 is not, it's not, you know, region 2 is meant to more define what that is, as opposed to seeing it there as well.
Okay, so we're going to have a question from a good friend, Jeff Bashton. Hi, Jeff. How will this webinar be written up so that we can practice the features shown? So this webinar will be recorded, or is recorded, and will be posted on HumanWare's YouTube channel. I'm guessing on the Vispero side, will that be uploaded on your YouTube channel?
Yes, we will definitely link to that, and we will make sure and let everyone know where to find that.
Fantastic. Question from Rebecca. You can't use buffer mode on the Mantis Q40, right? Okay. So Mantis Q40, the buffer mode, correct me if I'm wrong,
you
is
can certainly,
yes.
yeah, you can certainly use it. Any of the split braille features will work. The only thing you cannot use would be the specific commands that are, utilizing the command keys. So that would be your command keys 1, 2, 3 to kind of move between your split braille or no buffer, or the keys to invoke split braille being 1, 2, 3, 6 with that fourth thumb key. Because the Mantis does not have command keys, none of those will work. All of the features, the functionality of split braille will work. You'll just use the keyboard to utilize it.
And I think, Rebecca, I sent you some info, if it's the same Rebecca, early this morning. And to answer the highlight question more fully, I just tried it in using attributes view and the split views. You do get the letter H representing highlighted text in the region 2.
Awesome. Thanks for confirming that, Ron. Okay, in the split braille view selection combo box, can you use first letter navigation to choose quickly which one you want? So
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just trying it right now to make sure.
That's
that
right.
like, hold on. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want speech history, you could press S, or if you want, annotations, you can press A, of course.
Great stuff. Okay, question from Paul. What version of firmware do you need to have installed on your display for split braille to work? So that's a relatively easy answer. So it doesn't matter which firmware you have on the Brailliant BI 40X or 20X or Mantis Q40. The most important part is which JAWS version that you have. And maybe Elizabeth, Rachel, or Ron, maybe you can just confirm the version that you need to be on in order for split braille to work.
2024.
2024. There you go.
Yes.
Where can we get a list of HumanWare split braille commands? So they will be available through our resources on our website and through the HumanWare Buddy application in due course.
Right now, you can also find them if you go to the What's New page on the Freedom Scientific, What's New in JAWS page. If you're using quick navigation, you can press H to get down to the split braille section, and those commands are there both for the Brailliant and the Mantis Q40.
Great. Okay. And this was Rebecca again, so saying, thanks, Ron. I can't figure out how you select text in region 2 using the Mantis Q40. So maybe Peter, just to confirm on that one.
Sorry, I was muted. Maybe I'll do a snapshot on this, but it does come down to holding down that thumb key 1, your thumb key furthest to the left, and then pressing a cursor router where you would like to begin and end your selection. Once you do that, it is automatically copied to the clipboard. So that's the key there. It is automatically copied, but you do need to identify your starting and ending point by holding down thumb key 1 whilst you press the cursor router key above where you would like to start and then where you would like to end your selection.
Okay. Great stuff. Well, that's all the questions that I have for now. Would you like me to raise some hands to answer some live questions?
So please, and use this. And again, the feedback that Vispero gets, they're going to be improving this as Rachel and Liz and Ron already said, but this is the beginning, I would think. I mean, when we look at what's possible, think of how many Andrew, how many monitors do you have at this point? Like 7?
I actually have 3 monitors, to be honest.
Yeah, so, Andy's over there with 3 monitors. And this isn't an absolute, working with multiple monitors type of scenario per se, but it really starts to get us into a whole new, what does Braille mean? We've always thought of it as this very linear, very, structured linear thing. And now we're looking at independent panning on multiple sides. So it's very, very cool.
You can literally put a hand on each region. If you're watching, maybe you've parked your JAWS cursor on a status line, but you're also looking somewhere else in a document or something, you can use each hand and watch each region if you're that facile, if you're that good at that.
Absolutely.
I do.
And it also, I think, allows our brains to even learn how to process information a bit differently. Oftentimes we're very good at listening. I say those of us who are totally blank and listen to multiple things at once or decipher content. For the first time, we can actually consume literary content or, multiple, someone says, I'll keep an eye on it, and they're like able to look at something while they're focused on something else. This is for the first time we can actually do that, and that's very, very neat. So
that's great.
All right, we've got one more question to answer. So this is perhaps which split braille view is better if I want to read a web page and a Word document at the same time?
That would be your text buffer, right, Ron? I mean, you would put the
I'd
page,
put the Word
depending on what
document,
the page is, like your text, in the buffer, and then you would have your document open if you needed to take content. But I think it also comes down to you can define what your buffer is. You're not going to be scrolling through an entire web page in region 2 if it it is a bit understanding what is in your buffer.
And how you do it's going to depend on what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's great for either buffer part of the page or buffer the document and look at the page.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll answer this question as well. Just last one off is this is perhaps the wrong place to ask this question. But with split braille work with the BrailleSense 6, and by all means, most important here is about having access to braille here. So this is a question to you folks at Vispero. Is the BrailleSense 6 supported for split braille?
We've got just Pappenmeyer and HumanWare and the Freedom display. If I have not
think at this point, those are the only 3 listed.
I believe so. Yes.
HumanWare, Pappenmeyer, and the
Freedom,
the Vispero displays.
And it's because each manufacturer, and this is really to HumanWare's credit, they are fast. Each manufacturer has to spin those driver components, and HumanWare jumped on it immediately. I know you guys saw the merit of this, and
we were fired up. When I saw this back in the summer, somewhere around then, I was like, "Oh, Andy, we were both like, this is awesome. We need to do this. This is."
You guys responded very quickly.
So we're all about productivity and enhancing that in any way. So we were just so glad to be on board when this came out. So thank you, Ron. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Rachel. Andy, of course. And I just, we've done quite a bit of partnership pieces over the last few months, and we'll continue to do any of this where we can. So thank you for giving us your time and letting us highlight some JAWS features that we're a part of.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, and the demo.
Okay. Just a couple of other points just to finish off. So to celebrate the 200th year anniversary of Louis Braille, HumanWare will be giving away $200 vouchers or promo to everyone. So we will be sending that via an email in due course. And this is only applicable for the American region. And of course, a notice from Vispero is the WebAIM survey. So Rachel, perhaps you just want to quickly talk about the WebAIM survey and how people can fill in that survey as it's last day today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So yeah, we are saying WebAIM, WEBAIM, and I'm going to pop a link in the chat. We would encourage you to fill it out. It doesn't only benefit Vispero because it does give us feedback on JAWS, but it's also published far and wide, and employers look at the WebAIM survey as well to make decisions about accessibility. So if you're using assistive technology, we do encourage you to visit this link and fill it out, or do a Google search for WebAIM 2024. And that's all.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much, everyone here. This has been a fantastic webinar, and I hope everyone has enjoyed this as much as I have. As I mentioned, it will be recorded. It will be hosted on both the Vispero site and the HumanWare site. And until then, enjoy split braille with whichever braille display that you have. Thank you very much, and good night.